It started out like any other day. I rolled out of bed, grabbed my phone, and mindlessly scrolled through Facebook while having my morning coffee. At first, everything seemed normal, notifications from my friends, funny videos being shared, and of course, plenty of selfies. But when I clicked on my profile, something felt off. My profile picture, which was usually a photo of me and my dog, had been changed to a disturbing image I didn't recognize. My cover photo was also different, now a bizarre collage of skulls and other creepy images. Had I been hacked? Panicked, I frantically tried to change my password, but kept getting error messages. I was locked out of my own account. My alarm grew as I helplessly watched the hacker start posting strange, threatening status updates and messaging my friends inappropriate things from my account. I felt powerless. Years of my life were on this account, and now it was being used to harm others. This wasn't just about me anymore. I contacted Facebook support right away, but they were slow to respond. The hacker continued wreaking havoc from my account, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. I kept refreshing my feed, hoping all the disturbing content would disappear. But the hacker kept posting more creepy photoshopped images, alarming threats, racist tirades. It was a nightmare watching my identity transformed into something malicious and dangerous. My friends were confused and concerned, asking if I was okay or if I had been hacked. But any comments I left explaining the situation were quickly deleted by the hacker. I was terrified this person would damage my relationships and reputation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of sending urgent requests, Facebook support got back to me. They were able to temporarily suspend my account and start investigating the hack. However, they warned it could take some time before I'd have access again. As I anxiously waited to regain control, my mind raced about who could have done this. How did they get my password? Were they spying on me? Were they someone I knew? I started growing suspicious of those closest to me. The hacker knew too much about my personal life for it to be a random attack. I racked my brain thinking through every conversation, every date, every minor conflict I'd had recently, looking for clues. Could it be that Tinder match who got a little too possessive a few weeks back? My colleague who always asked prying questions about my weekend plans? The barista at my coffee shop who memorized my usual order? Everyone suddenly felt like a potential suspect. A week of sleepless nights later, my account was finally restored. The hacker had been blocked and all of their malicious content removed. I was relieved to have it back, but also unnerved. I now realized I couldn't fully trust Facebook with my personal information anymore. I went through my account with a fine-tooth comb, trying to figure out how they got in and what they did. That's when I uncovered the horrifying truth. It was my ex-boyfriend. He had hacked me as an act of revenge after our bad breakup. Dark messages he had drafted but not sent revealed he had been planning this for months. He waited until I let my guard down, then struck. He knew things about me no stranger would know. He was able to answer security questions about my childhood pet's name, mother's maiden name, and more. I felt so violated knowing someone I had once loved and trusted would do this to me. He had seen private messages, photos, posts, my whole digital life, and he used that access to try and destroy me. I didn't feel safe, even in my own online spaces. Looking further back, the signs were there all along. He had always been possessive and controlling. He didn't like that I had a vibrant social life outside of him. He accused me of flirting or cheating anytime I talked to another guy. He had major anger issues that destroyed our relationship. This revenge plot was the ultimate culmination of his toxic behavior. I thought it escaped his grip when we broke up. Now I knew he'd still been clinging to me the whole time, plotting his attack in the shadows. It made my skin crawl imagining him obsessively monitoring my accounts, waiting to strike. How did I not see the signs earlier? I changed all my passwords and security settings. I removed anything on my Facebook that he could use against me. I untagged him from bold posts and pictures, erasing our history. I blocked him and all our mutual friends on social media, cutting ties completely. It took time, but slowly I began to feel secure in my account again. I was more careful about what I shared online and with who. I only connected with people I truly trusted. I kept all my profiles completely private. I ran virus scans regularly to check for spyware or tracking programs. The experience shook me, but I didn't let it take away my passion for sharing life's moments. After all, that's what brought me joy on Facebook in the first place, capturing memories, expressing myself, connecting with loved ones near and far. The hacker tried to use what I cared about most against me, but opening up and connecting authentically is how we take power back. I joined survivor support groups, both online and in person, to help process the violation and regain my sense of safety. I learned better ways to establish boundaries, both digital and emotional ones. Seeing others overcome similar betrayals gave me hope. While I still felt echoes of trauma, I wasn't going to let fear stop me from embracing the meaning social media adds to my life. My account was mine again, and I could finally move on. I was wiser, more aware, and just as passionate as ever about connecting in healthy ways. Though my security measures would now be tighter and my circle of trust smaller, I knew there was still good to be found in sharing myself online. I could still uplift others, create community, and document my journey with cautious optimism rather than naivete. The hacker had wanted to destroy me, but I wouldn't let him. I used the experience to grow stronger, while still protecting the soft parts of myself that give life richness. My account was no longer our shared space, it was fully mine again, and with thoughtful intention, I continued filling it with light. It started slowly at first. I would notice an old post missing from my timeline or an old photo gone. At first, I thought nothing of it, figuring maybe I had deleted something accidentally long ago and just didn't remember. But then it kept happening. More and more of my old posts and photos were just gone, vanished like they never existed at all. I tried not to worry about it too much. Technology glitches sometimes, right? But the nagging feeling wouldn't leave me alone. Something felt off. So I decided to do some investigating. I went through all of my albums, all the way back to my very first Facebook photos from over a decade ago. There were gaps, big gaps. Entire photo albums gone. Vacations, birthdays, special events, all missing. How was this possible? Next, I started going through my old posts. Most people don't realize that you can still see all of your previous posts on Facebook, even ones you've deleted. But as I scrolled and scrolled down my timeline, I realized there were huge chunks of missing posts. Years worth of memories and updates just erased from my history. My heart started to race. This couldn't be just random glitches. Something more sinister was going on. Someone was meticulously deleting bits and pieces of my digital life. But who and why? That's when I had an idea. I decided to search my name on Facebook to see if I could spot anything suspicious. I know it seems weird, but I don't have a very common name. Not many other people share it. So a search for my name shouldn't bring up much besides my own profile. Only this time it did. There was another profile using my name. And that profile was filled with my missing photos and posts. My photos, my posts. All now belonging to some imposter with my name. I felt sick to my stomach. Some stranger had stolen parts of my online identity and was passing them off as their own life and memories. It was a violation and incredibly creepy. In a bit of a panic, I immediately messaged the fake profile and demanded to know who they were and why they had stolen my photos and posts. But I never got a reply. All I received was a notification that I had been blocked by that user. I frantically reported the profile to Facebook, explaining the situation and insisting this was an imposter account. But Facebook said they found no violations of policy and would not remove the profile. I was distraught. This identity thief just kept casually posting more of my stolen photos and memories, blithely sharing them as if recalling fond times in their own life. And no one realized these were my memories, my life, not theirs. Meanwhile, my own real profile grew emptier by the day as more of my past disappeared from my timeline. I felt erased, forgotten, like I was watching someone else take over my online existence while my real life faded away. I became almost obsessed, constantly checking the imposter's profile to see what new theft had occurred. Each new post from my past felt like a fresh violation. Soon there were barely any traces left of me on my own profile, years of my life wiped clean. While my phantom clone hummed along, accumulating friends and interactions like nothing was amiss. No one suspected a thing as they oohed and awed over another batch of my stolen moments. I felt helpless, alone. No one believed what was happening. Some even suggested I was confused or seeking attention. But I knew this was real. Some stranger had cherry-picked pieces of my past to create a new identity, leaving only fractured behind. In my darkest moments, I started to wonder, what if I just disappeared altogether, like a ghost? Would anyone even remember me if my doppelganger seamlessly took over my role? Those thoughts terrified me. I couldn't let this imposter successfully erase me and hijack my identity. I had to continue fighting, no matter how hopeless it seemed. So I'm still here, barely, watching a phantom live my life through selective stolen snippets. While I struggle to cling to the remaining pieces of my scattered timeline before they too flicker and disappear, it's a nightmare I can't seem to wake up from. But I have to keep trying. I can't give up and vanish completely. My life may have been erased online, but I'm still here in reality. I know who I am even if no one else does anymore. I just have to find a way to take back what's mine before there's nothing left at all. I decided to reach out to Facebook again, this time really pleading my case about this imposter account. I explained in detail the years of posts and photos that had been stolen from me and now populated this fake profile. I pointed out specific examples: my graduation photo from 2008, my trip to Hawaii in 2011, my dog Max who died in 2014. But again, Facebook responded saying they found no evidence of wrongdoing. They assured me they take privacy and impersonation very seriously, but could not take action based on my reports alone. Frustrated and feeling hopeless, I made one last desperate attempt to recover my stolen digital life. I began contacting all of my old friends whose interactions and comments still remained on the imposter's profile. One by one, I explained to each friend what was happening. I showed them screenshots contrasting my own barren timeline with the bounty of my memories gracing the faker's page. And I pleaded with them to report the account as well, in hopes that multiple flags might trigger Facebook to finally shut it down. Some of my friends were shocked by what I uncovered. Others seemed skeptical at first, not wanting to believe such an insane invasion could be real. But as I presented more proof, most eventually came around and agreed to report the account. Weeks went by with no change. My impersonator continued posting away, still blocked from my view. The memories and interactions I had built up over the years remained hijacked. Just when I had all but given up hope, it happened. I logged into Facebook one morning, and the first thing I noticed was a notification. The fake account had been disabled. My heart leaped as I immediately went to search for it, but this time it was nowhere to be found. Only a vague disclaimer from Facebook that the page was not available. I was overwhelmed with relief. After all this time, all the struggle, it was finally gone. While I'm still not sure what finally made Facebook pull the plug, I suspect the mounting reports from my friends helped tip the scales. The feeling of reclaiming my identity was indescribable, but I also knew the damage was still done. Much of my digital past remained lost, those memories still erased from my own timeline. Yet now there was hope, a chance to start rebuilding, to make new memories and reconnect with old friends. My life wasn't wholly stolen after all. I'm still here, and I don't plan on vanishing ever again. It started out as just another ordinary day. I was sitting at my desk at work, taking a quick break to scroll through Facebook and catch up on what my friends were up to. That's when I saw it. A new friend request from someone named Nyla Miller. The profile picture was a photo of a smiling young woman with long blonde hair who looked vaguely familiar. I couldn't quite place where I knew her from, but I figured she must be an old classmate or something, so I went ahead and accepted the request. Over the next few days, Nyla's posts started popping up in my newsfeed. At first it was just normal stuff. Selfies, posts about her day, links to articles or videos she found interesting. But the more I saw of her posts, the more unsettled I felt. There was something off about them that I couldn't quite pinpoint. The wording of her statuses sounded almost old-fashioned, like they were written decades ago. And some of the things she talked about referenced pop culture or news events from years past. One night when I couldn't sleep, I pulled up Nyla's profile and started scrolling back through her earlier posts. She had only been on Facebook for a few weeks, but there were already hundreds of posts, with timestamps stretching back over the past 5 years. As I read further back, an uneasy realization began to form. Nyla Miller had been the name of a girl I went to elementary school with, who died when we were just kids. But this Nyla was sharing memories and making references to things only the two of us would know. I sat staring at my phone, heart pounding, wondering if this could really be my childhood friend back from the dead. The Nyla I knew had drawn at a pool party we were both at in the 4th grade. I still had the occasional nightmare about watching her limp body being pulled from the water. Was this some kind of twisted hoax? Or had Nyla Miller truly found a way to return from beyond and make contact? Over the next few days, an overwhelming sense of dread came over me every time I logged into Facebook. Nyla's posts were becoming more unhinged and disturbing. She talked about wanting revenge on those who had wronged her and having unfinished business on Earth. The paranormal references and violent imagery were unlike anything the sweet girl I once knew would have posted. I considered unfriending or blocking her, but a fearful curiosity pushed me to keep watching. I started losing sleep, jolting away from nightmares where Nyla's waterlogged corpse lurched out of my phone screen. At work, I jumped at every notification, heart freezing until I confirmed it wasn't another message from her. My finger hovered over the unfriend button dozens of times, but some dark compulsion kept me transfixed. I felt like a bystander watching a car wreck, horrified but unable to look away. After a week of this escalating dread, I finally reached my breaking point. Nyla's latest post was a photo of the backyard pool where she had drowned, with a chilling caption threatening vengeance on those who let her die. Handshaking, I typed out a reply. Nyla, if you can see this, please let me know what I can do to help you rest in peace. I held my breath and hit send. The next day, I reluctantly logged on, bracing for a response. But Nyla's page was gone. In its place was a memorial page titled, "In Loving Memory of Nyla Miller, created by her parents." Nyla's 21st birthday would have been this weekend, I suddenly recalled. As I sat staring at the memorial page, tears welled up in my eyes. Whether real or imagined, my childhood friend had reached out one last time. I said a silent prayer for her to be at peace, finally letting go of the guilt and horror that haunted me. Closing the browser, I shivered despite the warm room. I would never know for sure what really happened, whether it was all some strange illusion, or if Nyla had somehow tapped into social media from beyond the grave, desperate for closure. I considered deleting my Facebook account altogether to avoid such a chilling experience again. But for now, I was simply grateful that both Nyla and I could finally move on and put the past to rest. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking about Nyla more and more. The trauma of losing her so young had stuck with me, and her brief reappearance on Facebook stirred up a lot of complicated emotions. I realized I needed to properly process my grief and get closure, so I started seeing a therapist who helped me open up about that painful time in my childhood. It was difficult at first, but gradually talking through my feelings lifted a weight off me I didn't know I was carrying. My therapist encouraged me to forgive myself, explaining there was nothing I could have done to save Nyla when we were only kids ourselves. I wrote Nyla a heartfelt letter saying everything I wished I'd had the chance to tell her. I visited her grave and said a tearful goodbye. Slowly but surely, the nightmares faded along with the guilt I had harbored. I was finally able to remember Nyla with joy instead of pain, cherishing the happy memories we did share. Her Facebook mystery remained unsolved, but I made peace with the fact that some things just can't be explained. Today marks the 10-year anniversary of Nyla's passing. It's a sad milestone, but one I feel ready to face. I said a prayer for her this morning, thanked her for spurring me to heal, and wished her comfort wherever she may be. A gentle breeze stirred the wind chimes outside my window as I finished. Maybe it was all in my head, but it felt like Nyla's way of letting me know she's okay. For the first time in a long time, I truly believe she is. It started out as just another ordinary day. I was cleaning up around the house and decided to take a quick break. I snapped a photo of my newly organized living room and posted it on Facebook to show off my handiwork. Little did I know that innocent post would set off a terrifying chain of events. The first sign of trouble was a notification that I had a new message. I clicked over to my inbox, expecting it to be a friend complimenting my decor, but instead, it was from someone I didn't know. The message contained a photo of my living room taken from an odd high angle, as if from the corner ceiling. Cute place, the message read. I love what you've done with it. Confused, I responded asking who the sender was and how they got a photo of my living room. My mind started racing with possibilities. Was it somehow photoshopped? Did I accidentally make the post public? The stranger wrote back even more cryptically. I have my ways. By the way, I think your bedroom could use some work. Attached was a photo looking down at my bedroom from directly above. My heart started pounding. This was no Photoshop job. Someone had clearly taken these photos from inside my home. But how was that possible? I live alone and keep my doors locked at all times. I frantically checked all the locks and scanned every room, but saw no signs of forced entry or anything disturbed. Over the next few days, the unsettling messages kept coming. Photos taken through windows of me watching TV. Shots peering down from the ceiling as I cooked dinner. Extreme close-ups of me blow-drying my hair in the bathroom. The stalker seemed to be mocking me, pointing out how easy it was for them to invade my privacy and document my most intimate, vulnerable moments. I was terrified. Who was this person and what did they want from me? Their intent didn't seem bad, since the photos avoided nudity. Rather, they seemed to take pleasure in simply spying on me without my knowledge and demonstrating how powerless I was to stop it. I replied to their messages begging them to leave me alone and threatening to call the police, but they just kept sending more photos accompanied by cryptic, taunting messages. Desperate for answers, I tore apart my home searching for hidden cameras. Finally, tucked away in an air vent, I found one tiny lens pointing directly at my bed. I discovered several more cleverly concealed cameras throughout the house, in ceiling lights, houseplants, behind painting frames. My stalker had clearly put a tremendous amount of planning into spying on me. But who had gone to such bizarre lengths to invade my privacy this way? And why me? Racking my brain, I tried to think who might have a personal vendetta against me. A jealous ex, disgruntled former friend. After filing a police report, I cautiously continued living my life, hoping whoever was behind the cameras would slip up and reveal their identity. One evening, I was cooking and suddenly felt a draft of cold air. I turned to see my balcony door, which I always kept locked, inexplicably standing wide open. Terrified the stalker had finally gained full access to my home, I grabbed a knife and searched the apartment, but it was empty. Still shaken the next day, I decided to stay at a nearby hotel for a while. As I was packing my bags, I heard a strange creaking sound from the ceiling above me. I looked up to see a vent cover being quietly slid open from the inside. Two cold eyes stared down at me from the darkness. My stalker had been hiding in my attic this whole time, watching my every move through their hidden camera network. I never returned to that apartment again. The identity of my stalker remains a mystery to this day, but the traumatic experience left me with lasting anxiety about my privacy and security. I am constantly suspicious of being watched or followed. I keep my blackout curtains permanently drawn, and I vowed never again to make the mistake of posting photos online, since you never know who might be lurking virtually right inside your own home. In the weeks that followed, I bounced between friends' couches while trying to figure out my next move. I was rattled to my core knowing someone had violated the sanctity of my home in such a sinister, calculated way. I replayed every moment in my head, racking my brain for clues I might have missed. Who would go to such lengths to terrorize me like this? How long had they been spying on me before making their presence known? What else had they seen through their hidden camera network that they hadn't shown me? The stalker seemed to take sadistic pleasure in toying with me psychologically. I felt like the prey in their twisted game. I decided to completely wipe the slate clean and move to a new city, hoping a fresh start would help me reclaim some sense of security. The first thing I did after renting a new apartment was to thoroughly sweep for any hidden cameras. I went over that place with a fine-tooth comb, vents, light fixtures, appliances, looking for anything out of the ordinary. Once I was certain the space was clean, I carefully unpacked my essentials. I kept my new address off any social media and didn't even tell friends directly where I had moved. The only connections from my old life I maintained were phone calls to close family. I just couldn't risk word getting back to my stalker that I was trying to hide from them. They had proven how resourceful they could be in penetrating my defenses. For the first few weeks in my new place, I barely slept. I would jolt awake at the slightest noise, convinced the stalker had found me and was lurking outside my door. I double-checked the locks and peered through the peephole at all hours of the night. Mundane maintenance repairs like an A/C vent cleaning would send me into a panic, certain the repairman was actually my stalker in disguise trying to plant more cameras. But slowly, my paranoia began to subside. I settled into a routine: work, grocery shopping, evenings watching TV. It seemed maybe I really had made a clean break from the sinister forces that had upended my previous life. Still, I knew I could never let my guard down completely. I vowed to be cautious about sharing too much online and to listen closely for those instincts that tell you when something feels off. My stalker remained faceless and nameless, but they had forced me to confront the harsh reality that we are all vulnerable in ways we don't even realize. They robbed me of my innate sense of safety and freedom from surveillance, but I refused to let them also rob me of my future. I reclaimed my life on my own terms, even if it meant living that life more quietly and cautiously. Somewhere out there, maybe they are still watching, looking for another moment of vulnerability, but I will never again give them the satisfaction of seeing me shattered. It had been nearly 15 years since I'd last seen or spoken to Jeff. We were best friends growing up, but drifted apart after high school when we went off to different colleges. I still thought of him from time to time, wondering how he was doing and what he was up to these days. So you can imagine my surprise when I logged into Facebook one evening and saw a friend request from none other than Jeff himself. I could hardly contain my excitement as I quickly accepted the request and sent him a message. Jeff, it's so good to hear from you after all these years. How the heck are you? What have you been up to? I typed eagerly. Within minutes, he responded and we started catching up. I learned that he had gotten married and had 2 kids, worked as an accountant, and still lived in our hometown. As we messaged back and forth reminiscing about old times, he referenced people, places, and events from our childhood that triggered fond memories in me. But then Jeff started mentioning some specifics that didn't ring any bells. A camping trip we took where his tent flooded, the time we built a giant snow fort in his backyard, a birthday party I threw for him with a cake burnt. I read the messages in confusion. I didn't recall any of those things happening. Maybe my memory was just a bit fuzzy after all this time, I reasoned. Over the next few weeks, Jeff and I continued to reconnect through Facebook. But the more we talked, the more apparent it became that his recollections didn't align with mine. He rambled on about shared experiences, funny stories, and meaningful conversations that I had zero memory of. I just smiled and played along at first, not wanting to offend him. Eventually, though, I had to ask him directly. Hey Jeff, some of the stuff you brought up doesn't seem familiar to me at all. Are you sure you aren't mixing me up with someone else, or maybe thinking of things you did with other friends? I feel bad, but I just can't remember any of that. Jeff insisted that no, he had the right person and his memories were accurate. He seemed annoyed that I didn't recall the same past that he did. The more we talked, the more unsettled I became. How could we remember things so differently? I decided to reach out to a few mutual friends from high school to see if they could jog my memory or back up Jeff's version of events. But strangely, none of them could corroborate his stories either. In fact, they all insisted they didn't remember Jeff at all. Jeff who? I have no idea who that is, my friend Lisa messaged back. My buddy Mike was equally puzzled. Dude, I don't know any Jeff. Are you feeling okay? At first I wondered if it was just a case of our old friends forgetting each other after years apart, but something felt off. The final straw came when I mentioned Jeff to my mom during a phone call. I casually asked if she remembered my good friend Jeff that I hung out with all the time growing up. She replied, "You only had one close friend named Mark. I don't know any Jeff." Now I was freaked out. This person contacting me out of the blue not only remembered a past I didn't, but no one else even knew him. Yet he referenced such vivid details and specific interactions between us. I couldn't bring myself to reply to his last message. I just hoped he would stop trying to contact me if I ignored him. Occasionally, I still feel a chill when another notification pops up that Jeff has posted on my timeline or sent me a private message. His profile looks like any normal person's, but I can't shake the unnerving feeling that this person either somehow fabricated shared memories with me, or he's not actually who his profile claims to be. They say you can never be too careful about reconnecting with people online. I learned that lesson the disturbing way. I just hope one day I won't see another message pop up from Jeff. It's been a few months now since I blocked Jeff on Facebook, but the bizarre experience still lingers in my mind. I decided to do some research online to see if other people had similar encounters with old friends suddenly contacting them out of the blue. To my surprise, I came across a few different threads where users described eerily similar situations. One woman wrote about an old college roommate named Jill that had abruptly friended her on Facebook. They chatted amiably about their college days at first, but then Jill started referencing events and conversations that never happened. When the woman questioned her other former roommates, none of them remembered Jill either. She was completely baffled, especially since Jill's profile seemed totally normal with years of photos and posts. A man shared a story about his childhood best friend, Reggie, who had reached out to him via Facebook. The two reminisced fondly at first until Reggie brought up a high school girlfriend that the man insisted he never had. When he asked old classmates about it, no one recalled this supposed girlfriend. Reggie kept aggressively insisting his memories were real even when confronted with evidence to the contrary. The more accounts I read, the more rattled I felt. There seemed to be a disturbing pattern emerging of people being contacted online by former friends or acquaintances who clearly recalled shared pasts that never occurred. Were these simply bizarre hoaxes being perpetrated, or could there be something more unsettling at play? One commenter theorized it may be a form of extremely targeted gaslighting by hackers or digital con artists trying to deliberately make people second-guess their own memories for some twisted goal. But that seemed rather elaborate just to mentally toy with random strangers. Others wondered if it could represent some sort of paranormal phenomenon, almost like momentary glitches in reality or consciousness, where two parallel timelines or lives briefly intersect. As unnerving as my experience had been, I hoped there was some rational explanation behind it all. The whole ordeal still makes me wary of accepting friend requests from people I haven't seen in ages. I realize nostalgia can be comforting and that everyone likes to reminisce about the good old days. But the next time an old acquaintance suddenly contacts me online after years apart, I'll be sure to take things slowly and see if our memories actually line up before letting my guard down. My encounter with Jeff taught me to be much more cautious moving forward when it comes to blast from the pasts. It started out like any other day. I rolled out of bed, grabbed some coffee, and sat down to scroll through Facebook before getting ready for work. As I sipped my coffee, I noticed a notification that I had been tagged in a video. Strange, I thought. I haven't posted any new videos lately. I clicked on the notification, and it took me to a Facebook Live video that appeared to be streaming from inside my living room. What? How could this be possible? I live alone. My heart began to race as I watched the video continue to stream moments from inside my home. The camera panned across my living room, over my couch and coffee table where I often worked on my laptop in the evenings. It was eerily quiet except for the soft hum of the heater kicking on. How could someone have gotten cameras in my home without me noticing? I searched every corner of the video frame, but saw no sign of the camera. The video kept streaming, now showing my kitchen. I watched in disbelief as the camera zoomed in on dirty dishes in my sink, then panned across the kitchen counter cluttered with mail and grocery bags. Moments that I thought were private were now being broadcast for the world to see on Facebook Live. I felt incredibly violated, but also puzzled. Who could be behind this sick invasion of my privacy? The video moved upstairs, capturing glimpses of my bedroom and bathroom. I watched in horror as the camera focused on my unmade bed and the pile of dirty clothes on the floor. It was like someone was purposely trying to embarrass me by exposing the most private areas of my home. My panic turned to anger and frustration. How did they get access and why me? What kind of creep gets pleasure from exploiting someone in this way? I racked my brain trying to figure out who could be responsible. No one except my landlord had keys to my place, and he certainly had no reason to pull a stunt like this. Could it be a hacker? The video feed didn't seem stable enough for remote access. No, all signs pointed to someone physically being in my home and planting hidden cameras. But when and how did they gain entry without my knowledge? I continued to watch helplessly as the video streamed, giving this unseen intruder full control over what moments to capture and broadcast from my home. It made my skin crawl thinking someone could be lurking in my home at that very moment, spying on me through concealed cameras. Were they still here? Were they watching my reaction live right now? I hesitated calling the police, afraid the intruder might retaliate if I got authorities involved too soon. But I couldn't just sit by and let this go on. My privacy and sense of security in my own home had been completely violated. I knew I had to take action, starting with getting out of the house in case the creep was still here watching me. I grabbed my phone, keys and bag, and rushed out to my car, locking the front door behind me. From the safety of my car, I called the police to report the video and possible home intrusion. They said they would send someone right over to sweep the house and try to locate any hidden cameras. As I gave my statement, the video was still streaming, now showing an empty living room. It was clear I had to move out until the police solved this case. I couldn't bear to stay in the house another night knowing someone had been inside spying on me. Sitting in my car, I tried to calm my nerves and think rationally. The police were on their way, and I needed to preserve any evidence that could help catch the perpetrator. I realized I should have taken screenshots of the video, but it was too late now. At least the police could try to get the footage from Facebook. As I waited, I agonized over how the intruder accessed my home. There were no signs of forced entry on the doors or windows. Could they have picked the front door lock? Had the landlord given out a copy of the key without my knowledge? Or did they find the spare hidden under the mat? I shuddered at the thought of someone being inside, planting cameras in my most private spaces while I was out or asleep. How long had they been spying on me? After what seemed like an eternity, the police arrived and I led them inside to sweep for intruders and cameras. The officers came up empty, finding no trace of an intruder or hidden recording devices. Though they had no evidence yet, they took my statement and assured me they would request the video footage from Facebook. I knew the digital trail could be the key to catching the perpetrator if they could track down the original live stream. For now, I had to find somewhere else to stay while the investigation was underway. I couldn't risk the intruder still having access to my home. I packed a bag and booked a hotel room for the next few nights, trying hard to hold myself together. But the gravity of the situation finally hit me and I broke down crying. I felt so violated and afraid knowing someone had been inside my sacred personal space without my knowledge. What else had they done or taken without my realizing? The uncertainty compounded the feeling of invasion, and I didn't know how I'd ever feel safe here again. Over the next few days, I struggled to go through the motions of work and life while constantly feeling on edge. I knew there was little I could do to assist the investigation, but the waiting game took a toll. I dreaded returning to my house to discover more violations. I considered staying in a hotel long-term or even moving, though that posed financial challenges. For now, I tried to be patient, hoping the police would uncover something soon. About a week later, I finally received a call from the lead detective with an update. The good news was they traced the live stream back to an account registered to a suspect they believed had been stalking me. I froze upon hearing that word, stalker. Suddenly, random occurrences over the past few months came into focus. Strange cars parked outside my home, anonymous gifts on my doorstep, feeling like I was being watched when I was out. My stalker had been methodically gaining access to my life before invading my home. The detective informed me they arrested the suspect, my neighbor's troubled son who had become obsessed with me. It explained how he obtained a key and planted cameras without forced entry. I finally let out a sigh of relief knowing he was in custody and my home was again my own. But I still felt shaken knowing he had been lurking undetected for so long, watching my every move. Over time, new locks, an alarm system, and security cameras brought back feelings of safety in my home. My stalker pled guilty to charges and can no longer contact me. Therapy also helped me work through the emotions of such a traumatic violation. I still feel occasional pains of fear remembering that sinister live stream, but I refuse to let one disturbed person steal my sense of security indefinitely. Slowly but surely, I reclaimed my space and my peace of mind. I continued to watch helplessly as the video streamed, giving this unseen intruder full control over what moments to capture and broadcast from my home. It made my skin crawl thinking someone could be lurking in my home at that very moment, spying on me through concealed cameras. Were they still here? Were they watching my reaction live right now? For now, I had to find somewhere else to stay while the investigation was underway. I couldn't risk the intruder still having access to my home. I packed a bag and booked a hotel room for the next few nights, trying hard to hold myself together. But the gravity of the situation finally hit me and I broke down crying. I felt so violated and afraid knowing someone had been inside my sacred personal space without my knowledge. What else had they done or taken without my realizing? The uncertainty compounded the feeling of invasion, and I didn't know how I'd ever feel safe here again. It started with a photo, an old photo I had posted years ago, back when I was in college. It was a picture of me and my roommate Jen at a party. We were smiling and looked so young without a care in the world. I rarely think about those days anymore, so I was surprised when I saw a comment pop up on the photo from someone named Watching You 77. The comment simply said, "I remember that night." I didn't recognize the profile name or photo, so I assumed it was just someone I went to school with who I had forgotten. I deleted the comment and moved on without thinking much of it. A few days later, though, another notification popped up. Watching You 77 had commented again on the same photo. "Jen doesn't look so good anymore." A chill went down my spine. How could they know? Jen had died our senior year in a terrible car accident. My stomach turned imagining this stranger somehow knew about that, but I reasoned the wording could just be an unfortunate coincidence. I quickly deleted the eerie comment again, hoping that would be the end of it. But over the next few weeks, more cryptic notifications came in. Watching You 77 began leaving comments on random old posts and photos from years back. The wording was always unsettling and seemed to hint at some personal knowledge of my past. On a photo of my old college apartment, "I've been there." On a post about my first job after graduation, "I know where you worked." On a picture of me and my college friends in a bar, "I remember that place." I tried blocking the account, reporting the comments, even changing my privacy settings. But nothing seemed to stop Watching You 77. The ominous messages just kept coming. Soon, this sinister stranger started referencing things no one else could possibly know, private details about my life I had never posted online. They mentioned the time I cheated on a big test sophomore year and never got caught. The day I skipped class to go to a concert without telling anyone. The night I got drunk and screamed at my ex-boyfriend over the phone. Watching You 77 even cited specific dates, locations, and vivid details about these moments from my past. It was like this person had been there, peering over my shoulder for years, spying on my most private memories. I was beyond terrified, but felt powerless to make it stop. I stopped posting anything new and avoided logging into Facebook at all, though I could never bring myself to delete my account entirely. It was like I was frozen, watching this horror unfold from afar, refusing to engage. I just desperately hoped that if I ignored Watching You 77, they would eventually disappear. But the notifications kept coming. One night, I had the chilling message that Watching You 77 had commented on a photo I was tagged in. It was an old birthday party, me smiling and surrounded by friends. The comment read, "She won't have many more birthdays left." I felt sick. This was not just some internet troll harassing me. This person knew me and was threatening me. Watching You 77 had breached the barriers of the online world and entered my real life. I was being stalked and needed to do something. In a moment of clarity, I decided to take back control. I would not be a passive victim. I called the police and filed a report on the online threats and harassment. They took it seriously, working with Facebook to trace the account and get it deleted. An investigation followed, though the perpetrator remained anonymous. I slowly began using Facebook again, cautiously at first. I scrutinized every friend request, every notification. But the horror seemed to be over. Life gradually resumed its normal rhythm, though I could never look at social media the same way again. The invisible line between virtual and real had blurred. Years later, browsing those old photos produces a complex range of emotions. Nostalgia for simpler times mingles with unease over the sinister events. The memories remain, but now carry an undercurrent of darkness, of menace. I sometimes wonder if Watching You 77 is still out there somewhere, peering through windows onto lives not their own. But I cannot live in fear. I must accept that the past remains beyond our control. The best I can do is stay vigilant and appreciate the present. While the shadowy stranger's motivations remain a mystery, the power they briefly held has faded. I reclaimed my life and story, though trauma lingers in the background, casting ripples into the future. I cannot fully delete the damage done, but I try to focus on moving forward one day at a time, not taking this fragile normalcy for granted. This surreal saga will always be part of me, however hard I try to shut it out. A cautionary tale of our two-faced digital world, the connections and community as well as the cruelty it enables. We all walk these twin precipices, longing for the light but unable to ignore the darkness below. Still, I continue on as best I can, wary yet hopeful, scared but resilient, steadied by hard-won wisdom about others, myself, and the uncertainty that lies ahead. The path winds on, and I must follow where it leads. I sometimes find myself wondering who was behind those sinister messages. What would drive a person to stalk and harass a total stranger online? Did they find some perverse satisfaction in provoking fear and violating privacy, or were they lashing out from their own pain and isolation? In weaker moments, I feel the urge to search for traces of Watching You 77 across the internet, hoping to uncover some explanation. But it would likely only lead down an endless rabbit hole of speculation and paranoia. Perhaps some mysteries are better left unsolved. The chilling experience serves as a reminder that even our most intimate spaces are not fully shielded from those with malicious intent. Social media provides the illusion of control over our personal narratives, but that sense of security is fragile. Lurking beneath the surface lies the unsettling truth that we are still deeply vulnerable. It started off like any other Saturday morning. I was sitting in bed scrolling through my Facebook feed when I noticed a post from my friend James. It was an event invitation for something called Emergency Alert, Shelter in Place. The description said there had been a massive chemical spill downtown and toxic fumes were spreading through the city. Residents were instructed to stay inside, lock their doors and windows, and seal off any vents or openings. I was immediately alarmed. Why hadn't I heard about this from the news or the city? The event page made it seem extremely urgent, saying anyone exposed to the fumes could experience severe respiratory distress or even death. James' post urged everyone to share the event and spread the word quickly. My heart started racing. I lived downtown, right near where the apparent spill had occurred. I jumped out of bed and started closing up my apartment, terrified that the toxic fumes could reach me at any moment. As I sealed up cracks and vents with towels, I logged onto the city's official Facebook page, expecting they would have emergency information posted. But I saw nothing. No warnings, no alerts, no mention of any chemical spill. That's odd, I thought. I decided to message James to find out more about where he saw the alerts. He wrote back immediately, saying it was being reported on all local news stations and that emergency responders were going door to door in the affected areas. Again, strange that none of this was showing up online anywhere. I flipped through news channels on my TV, but found no coverage of any spill or shelter in place order. I started to get an uneasy feeling in my gut. Outside my window, I saw neighbors going about their normal routines. No sirens, no evacuation orders, no hazmat teams. I went back to the event page and noticed something that made my heart sink. The other hosts listed were unfamiliar names I had never seen before. The timestamp on the original post was also odd, 3:14 a.m. Why would emergency alerts go out in the middle of the night? With mounting dread, I searched online for any evidence of a spill or chemical leak, but found absolutely nothing. No reports anywhere. I tried calling the city's emergency line, but only got a pre-recorded message. At that point, I was convinced this whole thing was a hoax. Some sick person had created this event to scare people, make them think their lives were in danger. And it was working. I saw friends and neighbors sharing the page, spreading word to stay inside. I can only imagine how many people were needlessly cowering in fear in their homes, sealing themselves off from the outside world. My fear turned to anger. Who would do something so twisted and cruel? I immediately reported the event to Facebook for false information, warning them it was a fake emergency. I posted on my profile, telling friends not to share the hoax and explaining that I could not find any credible information to corroborate the supposed disaster. Sure enough, within an hour, Facebook had removed the event page and posts related to the fictional alert, but worried about those who had already seen it and did not know it was fake. The person who created it probably got some sick thrill out of the chaos and panic they caused. I hope they're identified and held accountable. It was a sobering reminder of how easily misinformation can spread online and how convincing it can seem at first glance. We have to be cautious about verifying anything that seems off and making sure information comes from trusted sources before spiraling into hysteria. While it was upsetting to realize someone deliberately tried to terrorize our community, I'm grateful that I caught on quickly enough to help warn others. After the adrenaline rush of panic and stress, I was utterly exhausted. I can only imagine the terror people felt believing there was a deadly chemical spill encroaching on our homes. Who knows how long some sheltered in place, fearing for their lives. I'm just relieved no one was actually harmed by this cruel hoax. But it will make me far more skeptical next time I see an emergency alert posted online. In the following days, I couldn't stop thinking about the hoax and the person behind it. What kind of person gets enjoyment or satisfaction out of causing such widespread fear and chaos? Are they sociopathic, narcissistic, or just looking for attention, even if it's negative? I suppose we may never know their true motivations, but this act of deception revealed a disturbing capacity for cruelty. I checked in with some of my friends and neighbors who had initially seen the fake event post. Many described those frantic moments of panic when they thought their lives were at risk. My friend Emma broke down in tears, recounting how terrified she felt trying to seal up her house to protect her young children. Others talked about calling loved ones to say goodbye in case the toxic fumes overwhelmed the city. It was clear this hoax took a serious emotional toll. The more I reflected, the angrier I became that one malicious individual could inflict such trauma on an entire community. I wanted to see justice served, but the perpetrator remained anonymous behind the fake Facebook profile used to create the event. I feared the lessons from this incident would be lost if they simply vanished back into the shadows without consequence. So I decided to take action. I contacted the city to advocate for new regulations holding social media platforms accountable for allowing this kind of harmful misinformation to spread unchecked. I partnered with local nonprofits to launch a public awareness campaign about verifying online information and avoiding panic shared through unofficial channels. And I worked with mental health organizations to provide support services for those still struggling with anxiety after the hoax. Though it often seemed the person responsible would remain faceless, I chose not to lose hope. A month later, a breakthrough came. A local teen stepped forward, guilt-ridden, after bragging to his friends about creating the fake event. He insisted he never anticipated the scale of panic it would create. The boy and his parents cooperated fully with authorities. Rather than pursue criminal charges, we reached a restorative justice agreement, including a public apology, mandatory counseling, and community service aimed at rebuilding public trust. While accountability brought some closure, I know we cannot undo the trauma caused by this reckless hoax, but the experience brought our community closer in its aftermath. It opened important conversations about ethical online behavior and gave voice to those still hurting. And it reminded us that when misinformation spreads darkness, only radical compassion can ignite light. Though we now carry a lingering unease, an unsettled sense of fragility, I hope we can transform that into diligence, using caution born of compassion. For we are resilient when united, though vulnerable when divided. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.